Very poggers. All
Okay,
right.
That's good.
good.
All right. Let's do this shit. Okay. First things first. What's your IGN for this account?
I'm gonna
It's Hero Stratos. Hero space. Yeah, that works.
All right. I mean, this is just all standard runes. I'm assuming Conch, Triumph, Alacrity, Last Stand, and then yep, all like all pretty normal. Take HP per level. This rune is like not ideal. Armor is actually like pretty bad. Um,
Okay.
HP per level is like really broken. Especially, I mean, like even against full AD. That's the thing about it is like once you have like level 5 or level 6, it out damages. There's like a nice Balkan guy on Twitter who explained it that I am. His name is Aribo. I can link you after this. But anywho, even if you're against full AD, your base armor will just wind up giving you more HP after like level 4 or 5, sometimes even earlier. There's can be an argument to be made like on champions where you're healing a little bit more, but even then, like the threshold is so small that it's, you know, HP per level is pretty broken. Unless you're against literally full AD, and you think you're going to be fighting a lot early game, then like just go HP per level. It's pretty broken, especially against, I mean, you got this guy. I mean, Nasus does a little bit of AP. You got, I mean, a little bit of AP here, but like it's, mostly for the Lysandra. Okay,
Okay.
let's go through this. Sucks that couldn't get an initial. All right, it's fine. So let's see right now. Right now, what's your thought process? So ideally, we're pretending that this is the loading screen because we don't really if we're developing a plan at the beginning of a game, it's already way too late. As soon
Right.
as as soon as the fifth pick locks in on red side, like in champ select, we need to be developing a plan. So what's your thought process right now? What's your plan? How are you trying to path this game?
All right. So my thought process on the lane setups. So Nasus and Yone both scale really hard. I know, like Yone can snowball games, but
Mm-hmm.
initially I was like, okay, that matchup's kind of even. I don't think Yone needs a lot of help. I can path up there if he gets ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Jungle matchup, I win early and lose later. I'm not entirely sure how the mid matchup goes, but I would assume Lysandra has shove.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of bot lane, I think their bot lane has shove.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so here,
So okay,
I
so
guess,
let me first explain real quick how prio actually works. So in general, like people like higher range generally has so there's two ways that you can generate priority. One is through just normal trading. So Caitlyn and Lysandra are really good examples of that. On both sides, we actually have really good examples of one type of prio and a really good example of the other. Except for Fizz, he has no prio. Poor Fizz. Lysandra is really good at poking, right? We have Fizz who's really good at all inning, right? So sometimes you can have lanes where it's like, Draven, Leona versus something like Lucian Nami, where theoretically, the Lucian Nami should win lane simply because they have a lot more poke. They have a lot higher range because of Leona, so they should be able to do more. They should be able to hit level 2. Um, but Draven Leona also, if Leona lands 1E, all of that prio that you were hoping to rely on just disappears up in smoke. So something to be wary of. It's not something to be wary of on Lee Sin because he doesn't give a shit where he paths into. He pretty much wins every single 3v3 in the game and almost every single 2v2. He's probably the best like group skirmisher in the game. Super heavy mobility, super heavy damage, nice little peel ability, really nice AoE. Lee Sin's pretty much the best possible 2v2, 3v3 skirmisher you could possibly ask for. There's a reason he has such a high pick rate in Challenger. Um, so anyways, back to the original thing, is that deciding where like if like where you want to path in for like something like this in, you don't really care about like who you mostly care about making sure that the matchup that you're pathing into isn't just too turbo doomed and making sure that you actually have like potential like gank potential. Um in terms of where you want to path your initial analysis on Nasus, uh, so that's kind of for Nasus, it really depends, right? You want to be thinking about whether or not your top laner can three-wave crash into a dive. So if your top laner is like, I mean, even Yone can do it to a certain extent, but let's just say, right, we have a Riven, we have a Jax, we have somebody who can just kind of like prep the wave perfectly, and on that third wave right before Crab, we just dive. That's the nail in the coffin for Nasus. That's generally like the reason why Nasus really isn't touched in Hilo too much. Well, he's getting touched a little bit more, but like the reason why it took him like it's really difficult for Nasus to actually do anything in Hilo is because in Hilo players generally like they have really good wave management. So I'll give you an example of something that I like Adrian Irvin is like ungodly good. Like every single time I've ever played with him, and every single time he's ever been against Nasus, it's just the same shit every game. Slow push two waves, crash on third, dive on third, and the game is over. From 3 minutes into the game is over. So what you can do is it's almost like a knowledge check, right? So like bot lane, like whatever Viego can, path in, but like if Viego paths bot, right? If Viego paths bot, our bot lane can most likely just walk away, or they're probably just chilling under turret anyways. So I mean, either way, the odds of them getting a gank off on that with a Soraka and zero setup is probably close to zero. If we can get a if we can get a three-wave crash on Nasus, the game is just done. Yone gets such a massive lead because the thing about top lane is like it's 2 to 3 level leads almost every single time. The times that you want to be ganking bot lane, like spam ganking bot lane as Lee Sin, or like just in terms of even pathing bot lane in the first place, it's just top lane matchups are so unbelievably volatile because especially when you're dealing with like melee champions or just top lane in general, because you have to think about it like this, right? Think about it in terms of range, right? So if both laners outrange each other, right? It's a lot easier to
Hmm.
manipulate the wave, right? Because now you don't have to aggress for CS. It's like it's really hard to force ganks on people like that unless they are just completely out of position. You agree?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. So for melee champions, it's a lot different because anytime they want to touch their wave and fix their wave, they have to walk up and they have to aggress really far. So in every single matchup, if they ever lose control of the wave and they just freeze, they don't get to play the game anymore. So theoretically speaking, right? Let's just say we don't even three wave crash on Nasus, right? Let's say that, we just we just get a gank off, right? So if it's he just it's even in the wave, we get him, we kill him, whatever, right? If Yone can crash and bounce, and you can kill him one more time when he has to aggress, the game is done. Legitimately done because Yone now has a 2 to 3 level lead, and Nasus can no longer walk up. That's the thing about top lane matchups, and that's something you have to be really like you have to be first of all you have to that's the thing when you're playing early game junglers, you're on a time frame. Like you have to be making decisions like you have to all of your decisions have to be incredibly high tempo. So you can't be thinking in terms of abstract concepts like how do I think like these guys can carry me? You can, but mostly you need to think about what you can do to snowball. We don't really care about
Okay.
like scaling, right? We to a certain extent, right? Because it's all stuff that we would need to be thinking about, but that should get much less priority over who do I think we can just get the most done like right now. Because most of the time, if it gets past 20 minutes, our control over the game just goes up in smoke. Like it's not Lee Sin's late game and mid to late game is way better than it used to be, but it's still pretty rough. So we want to be making sure that the lanes that we're pathing into can snowball us and we can get really insane kill pressure off. That's why in general I think pathing top, unless it is for a top laner who just can't really do anything for us, or if like now let's just say theoretically, right, it's like a Thresh Callista or a Leona Draven or something like that. But when you look bot lane, right, what I see when I see in Italy, Actually, first off, what do you see when you see Nidalee support?
So I have actually never played with it before, but I
Hmm.
was thinking Nidalee has like pretty good like poke in lane, I would imagine.
Hmm.
So I figured because I initially I thought I should path top this game, but I switched to pathing bot here. I don't know if
Hmm.
it was the right reason or the wrong reason, but I'm like I'm gonna three camp into bot lane because I think they're gonna trade heavily because it's Nidalee and Caitlyn,
So
right? And they're gonna constantly want to poke.
So let me just first say this. I love that you have like that you have, even if you're wrong in the thought process, which you're not, like, you're not necessarily wrong. I don't think you're wrong at all. But the thing about champions like Lee Sin is that it's not about whether you're wrong. It's about whether you're making the best possible decision for, like, I think that you are entirely correct. And I think that you're entirely correct in terms of, like, you should probably have some pretty nice poke. So maybe there's a chance that you guys have Pry. You guys also have Ignite, and Soraka doesn't really do much. But when I look at Nidalee, I'm like, how the fuck am I gonna gank this? Like, seriously, where's your, like, what would you have, like, we have no like, it's just pure damage, right? So the only way that I'm thinking that I can make it gank off work down bot lane is if either A, they're super overextended. So, like, they have to really, really fuck up their wave, and they have to, like, have their wave in a position like where they're just like perma shoving, which I really don't see them doing against something like Nidalee, because they're just gonna lose bush control, and that's going to be really, really AIDS for them. But for, like, if I had something like Kai'Sa, now if this was a little bit different, right? Let's just say it was Kai'Sa Alistar, right? Or Kai'Sa Thresh, or somebody with like really, really good setup, I would definitely consider bot lane more heavily. But when I'm thinking, the first thing that I'm thinking is, how do I gank this? And when I see it in Italy, I'm just like, I don't know. Like Jin, you should be thinking about, like, how can I make sure that this shit works, right? Some champions don't need that, right? Some, like, let's just say if I'm playing Elise, right, you are the setup. It's nice if you do have setup, because, like, point and click, that's just locked down and they're dead, right? But, like, for the most part, unless you have just prio to the moon, like, it will be really, really obvious when you have prio. Like, mid lane, really, really obvious. Fizz just not going out prio, unless Lissandra just unbelievably fucks up, right? I mean, that's just melee champ, range champion. It's set in stone, right? For bot lane, it's mostly just range. So let's just say it's like, if you have a melee support and then anything like that, then you don't have prio. But that's actually, Lee Sin doesn't really care too much about that. Lee Sin mostly just cares about having prio when he wants to go for dives. But, like, it's still really, really nice for him, if he wants to, like, go for invades and stuff like that. But you mostly, again, want to be thinking in terms of what lane can I play around that will just accelerate me the most, and what lane, like, do I have the easiest time ganking. And Analysis is super, super easy to gank. Anyway, sorry for the long, like, rant. I just want to make for champions like Lee Sin, the actual in-game, like, it's mostly just whether, like, it's mostly just the knowledge check. That's it. It's mostly just a knowledge check. It's like, are you really thinking enough about the right things? Are you really thinking enough about what you want to be doing? Is the thought process actually there? Because in game, it's really just, are you actually looking at lanes, and whether or not that, like, early plays work. That's pretty much it. So, and we're gonna go through this, and what's gonna wind up happening is, I'll tell you how this game is gonna go. Also, first off, just make sure. Hopefully, okay. Q, are you going? Please tell me you do QE.
Yeah, I do QE here.
Okay. I don't like that you didn't smite. I mean, it's fine. You have Q. I personally like going EW. Just so that I'm not, like, fucking 1 HP. Um, but I mean, this is fine. Let me send you. You have the list of clears, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just test out. Like, have you practiced both of them? The like QE versus EW.
I have. I find that QE is usually a little faster,
Okay.
but you are lower health.
All right. I mean, if as long as you're fine with that, I mean, there's no, I don't see a problem with that. If you like that more. But yeah, so like right now, like, think about it like this, right? Look at how hard Nasus just like fucked over his lane. Imagine if you were pathing into that, like you could make sure this game was just over in like, a minute, like 2 minutes. It's just done. The game is just
Hmm.
absolutely secured from 3 minutes into the get into the game, right? And that's what you want to be like, that's something that you really really want to be thinking about, because that's why like Nidalee Renekton gets to be played. Nobody gives a shit if they scale. That's not about whether or not they scale. It's about whether or not they just get dove 3 times. Now they get herald. Now they're perma invading. And now how do you play the game? And the answer is you don't, right? And that's the same way with like how you want to be addressing things as Lee Sin, right? Obviously, we'd really like it if, we have we can do both, right? Where the lane that we're ganking has prio and has scaling. Uh it doesn't like it, but that's mostly a draft thing. That's never going to happen in solo queue. So, anyways, um you go Grump. Good. Yep.
Yeah, I accidentally queued the wolves, and I was like, that's not what I want to be doing.
It's all good. So it's going to be really really boring, but what I want you to do, what I need you to do is I need you to practice your clear constantly. Like right now, this is really, really rough, right? You're ganking this lane, like it's kind of really, really rough, because even in the best case scenario, we are down like fucking 300 HP. We're like literally 400 HP when we're going for this, right? So it's like it's really, really rough. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, this is nice. Did we know her flash timer before?
Yeah,
Did we
she
see it?
flashed in
Okay,
that
right, right,
fight.
right, right. Oh, yeah, yeah, okay, good. No, no, that's good. This is good. Okay. You need to help him shove out. Like, you need to help him shove out. Because if the worst case scenario happens, and they, like, for whatever reason, like, just even if it's just an E, right? And then you can walk over to the crab, and then you can walk over with Natalie to crab. Like, you want it's because like if you have to, like, let's just say, right, for whatever reason, it's just about building good habits. But let's just say, right,
Mhm.
Viego is not Viego. I don't know, maybe he's an Olaf, right? And he's just full cleared and he's waiting for you at crab, right? Can bot lane actually rotate to help you?
No, not until their wave shows.
Nope, not until their wave shoved. So you're actually helping yourself. Think about it not like you're helping your bot lane, but you're helping yourself in the worst case scenario of if their jungler shows and he's level 4 and he's waiting for me, like, I don't know, like fucking Jack Nicholson, right? Like his head's just chilling at like in the door, like with the axe, and like how do we do anything, like what do we do about it, right? And the answer is we make sure that it never gets to that 1v1 situation in the first place. The jungling is not about how mechanically strong you are. Nobody gives a shit about how mechanically strong you are in jungle. It matters of how many friends you brought to the party. Every single time, it's how many friends you brought to the party and whether your friends are cooler than theirs are. That's it. That's the only thing that matters for jungle. Like sometimes you'll have a lot of situations where people make mistakes mechanically, but jungling fundamentally isn't really a role that's like reliant on you mechanically outplaying too much, even on champions like Lee Sin, especially on champions like Lee Sin, actually. So right now, so what something that you want to be thinking about? Uh, you first of all, you want to be looking at lanes. Like we kind of like we're that's something like obviously it's a big thing, um, but we weren't really looking anywhere. So the first thing that we want to be looking at in terms of like lanes is we want to be looking at wave states every single time, especially on champions like Lee said. We want to be looking at wave states. We want to look at top wave state. We want to look at mid wave state, because as it stands, right? Did we like First off, did we ping the enemy jungle starting position? That's something I just now. I Wait, hold up. I don't think
No,
I
in my commenting, I thought he started um,
blew.
top side, but I
Mm,
realized that top got solo killed. He actually started bot this game, and I realized it after at about 6 minutes.
mm.
And then I think I pinged him on his second clear when he was going back to his Krugs.
Okay.
but initially I think I pinged the wrong location.
Okay. So if my initial thought process would be, okay, he probably started blue. I would have thought the exact same way because looks like he came to lane late. That's something you want to be looking at though, like just, looking at their lanes just to be making sure. My thought process would have been the same. You need to be able to adjust that thought process though. Like if your crab he's not showing, what do you need to be doing?
Assuming he's on other crab, or do I need to check his jungle?
No, you need to be checking. You need to be assuming that he's on opposite crab. Because
Okay.
even if we're like, you know, even if we think, okay, he's pathing down, right? If he's not there anymore, it means there's only one other place he can be. And if he's only in one other place we can be, we need to be looking at that wave, seeing if Yon's vulnerable, because maybe he doesn't know, right? Maybe he still's under the assumption that the Viego is pathing down. So maybe he tries, I don't know, for some whatever reason, wants to go for 3-minute turret plates, you know? Like, it's we need to give that information to him, make sure that we're constantly giving the information to our laners that they need, constantly giving them the pings they need, constantly giving them the information we need. So if they're the three pillars, the three fundamentals of jungling is making sure you're pinging properly, making sure that our clear is up to par, and making sure that, like, I mean, it's there's arguments to be made for, like, like that, like, for there's obviously camera control, but there's arguments to be made about, like, for champions like Lee said, that making sure that you're actually, like, have really really good game understanding is important, but for the most part it's just camera control. um, and we're flagging a little bit behind because we should, like, we're kind of like playing locked camera, right? Lee Sin is, like, regarded as, like, a mechanically complex champion, and I mean that's mechanics are kind of one of those XD things that it's mostly just, especially in jungle, like we have Nidalee, that's really just it, and that's mostly because she's just spamming autos and her clear is a little bit difficult. But, like, in terms of actual mechanical difficulty, nothing really exists in terms of jungle. The reason why Lee Sin is, like, difficult is because a lot of the players playing him will have information paralysis. And what I mean by that is they have so many opportunities, there are so many different decisions that they can make, that deciding what the fuck they want to do, you need to be confident. You need to have, like, even if it's like not even if it's not the best decision, you need to be confident in your decision, and you need to just go for it, right? Um, and on stuff like Lee Sin, you need to make sure that you constantly have the information that, like, you know that you need, right? You need to
Right.
constantly be making sure that you are collecting the information that you need, because as it stands, right, what do we know about our wave states in any single lane?
Um, Probably just about. I think the only thing I would notice right away without looking at lanes is that top just crashed and my top lane's resetting.
Okay, well, I mean, we still we want to look. So the only lane that we have actual concrete information on is bot lane, because we actually looked at that lane. Top lane, so it could theoretically be bouncing. We don't know. We know for sure bot lane's bouncing. Also, you know how wave states work, right? Actually, so just to make sure there's no misconceptions, I'm just going to, in group VOD reviews, I'm going to put down a nice little thing that I have on, uh, where is it? Waves. There we go. There we go. Nice little thing I have on waves and, like, what you can do with it and how waves generally work. So in general, the way waves work is that once you crash, just a super super easy simple oversimplification is, once a wave crashes, right? Almost always it bounces back, because this wave winds
Hmm.
up having to spend so long at this turret that this wave just gets there faster, and then the next wave builds it up, and then it starts, going back in the opposite direction, right? So the reason why that's important for jungle is every single time the enemy crashes, or anytime your laner crashes, where someone crashes, it will always put the person who got crashed on in a vulnerable position in about 30 to 40 seconds, which is unbelievably important on Lee Sin, because you need to be planning out and having so many different things, like, as, like, backup plans in case they don't work out. Because otherwise, if your first plan doesn't work out and you don't have another one, the game is over. Like, seriously, the game is just over. How many times have you had just a memory where, like, you had a plan, it didn't go well, and you just, like, had no idea what to do? on champions like Lee
I,
Sin or like stuff like that?
I would say definitely if my first two ganks don't go well, I feel pretty lost because I know
Hmm.
I have a tendency to force plays like either overforce plays or like go for a play when I feel like I'm behind on Lee Sin,
Hmm.
and I think planning will help me avoid those two issues.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I because I struggle from that as well, especially I mean I used to struggle a lot more, but like I used to think that I was a lot further behind than I actually was. So I would look at it and it's like I would be like we would be like maybe a little bit 2 to 3 kills behind, but because I wouldn't have like 5 to 6 kills, I would just feel like, oh my God, we're losing. Like I like there's nothing. I have to force something. I have to force something. I have to force something, and I would take like an even game or a game that we were like maybe scaling slowly out, or maybe like it wasn't even that far behind in the first place, and because I'm just forcing plays, that was just the nail in the coffin and making sure that we lose the game. So making sure that you have the mindset of like you know I don't really like forcing plays in general, unless you are actually 15 to 20 kills behind and you need to do that, or else there is no other opportunity to, you really just shouldn't. If you are going to get outscaled, if you are super far behind, yes, arguments can be made that yeah, you need to force. But forcing is like an absolute last possible, like last ditch effort where everything you have 3 losing lanes, everything is going fucking down the shitter. You're everything's a mess and you have no other choice. Then there's a very, very heavy argument to be made that like, yeah, it's time to force shit. But in every single other opportunity, it's much better to let a play happen naturally. Like if and let the like so we don't want to force dives when the wave state isn't proper, right? We don't want to force ganks when like the I mean it's all based on waves, right? It's all based on waves. Whether or not we can go for a play depends entirely on a wave. On how like right now, so like right now, whether or not we can gank bot lane depends entirely on the wave. So we just glanced bot lane. What were we looking at when we looked bot lane? I know what you were looking at, but I want to see if like you think like if you notice what you're looking at when you're looking at the bot lane.
So I noticed that um, my bot lane was shoving in, but their bot wave was also crashing the second time I looked down, so I knew that their bot lane had a potential to shove back in. And then as soon as I see them go for an overextended trade, I'd start walking bot.
Wait, you're
Maybe it
looking
was
at
a little bit before.
I do not. So when I see this, I don't think you're looking at bot lane uh like you're not getting enough information to like make an actual analysis on the wave. Like what I'm thinking when you're looking at this wave, I'm thinking you're just getting like a nice little like, okay, what's their HP total and where are they in the lane? I don't think you're actually looking at the wave state here because I don't think you're looking at it long enough to be like, oh, I mean maybe you are, but I don't think that you're looking at it
No,
long
you're
enough
probably right.
to get an actual good grasp of like because I when I just see like that short glance, I mean, I can't process it that fast. So I'm like, and I have like little fucking mnemonics, not like mnemonics, but like I have like things in my head to not things. You know what I'm talking about. Like I have methods of dealing with that information so that I can get it much
Hmm.
faster, right? And it's that I feel like that's the final time where you just like that's the first time where you're just looking at the wave, right? But like you need to be looking like that entire planning session of when you're going for that gank needs to be done much further in advance because you need to be like looking at the wave and just being like so like right now, right? Like let's because that was like a split second. I don't think you had enough time to process. I think you're just looking at the lane to look at the lane rather than actually generating concrete information. Like you're doing a
That's probably right.
quick little glance, getting like a look at like what maybe what your HP totals are, and I think that you're so I think what you're doing is you're justifying it like at post because I do the same thing by the way. I do the same thing. Like I'll justify my thought process and my decision making after the fact, um, just based off of the information that I collected. But in terms of here, I like we need to be thinking like it's a good analysis that this guy is gankable. The reason why though is because first off, it's like the way like that they're playing, like we need to be looking at them and how they're playing the lane. That's why I really
Okay.
like going W, is because when you're going QE, like you see what I mean, right? Like it's much harder to look at your lanes because you're just way less healthy. Whereas if you're going W,
Hmm.
you're just like, you press Alt W, you don't have to click anything, you don't have to target anything. It's just like all of your buttons are already there. So you none of your abilities have to target anything. You can just attack, move without, without having to look at anything. So you can spend a lot more time looking at lanes and you won't get punished super hard for looking at it, and especially on a champion like Lee Sin where that's incredibly important. Anywho, that's just something I want you to try, and something that I want you to try
Okay.
especially is when you're doing these clears and you're practicing these clears on drill. I want you to focus on is every single time you're making a transition, or even when you're on camps, I want you to pan your camera, not pan your camera, but I want you to click your minimap whatever towards whatever lane that you're closest to, whatever lane that you can path into, whatever your lane that you're three camping into. I want you every single time you're like, I want you to have complete like, you know, because in a real game, right? Practicing our clear is really important, right? But in a real game, we need to be actually looking at our lanes. We need to be looking at the wave states. We need to be looking at like, wait a second, can I actually do anything here, right? Especially on a champion like Lee Sin. So we want to be making sure that we actually know the information that we need to know to go for the plays that we're actually going to go for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for that, I want you to practice the drill every single time. Like I want you to just constantly be looking at lanes. Not enough to like completely screw up your clear, right? But I want you to be looking at lanes a lot. And what I feel like you'll find is that while you're doing QE, it's going to be really hard for you to do that. It's going to be really hard for you to do that. Anywho, because honestly, like the thing that's the thing about Lee is that this all of this and beyond, does it really matter?
What?
Like
Sorry. What are you asking?
at this, you can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
At this stage in the game to this stage, does it really matter?
No. I think we're gonna win the game regardless. I
Yeah.
think Yone had like 6 kills at 10 minutes.
hmm So like the really like all of this doesn't really matter. The actual stuff that matters, the meat and potatoes of the game is the stuff you're making in the early game, because and mostly it's the first what's it called? The first play that you're making. But yeah, in general,
Okay.
like the first, so I got five things that I want you to focus on. First off, I want you to focus on clear, because this is, I'm not going to say it's unacceptable, but this is not great. This is really not ideal, because when we're going for the play in the first place, we're like half HP. Uh, we're not able to look at lanes because of that. I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but something needs to give.
Okay.
I want you to make sure that you're constantly looking at lanes, that you're constantly collecting information, that you're constantly thinking about waves, because it's not going to be something that's initially like super easy. Um, Looking at that stuff and getting in the habit and the good thought, like the good mindset of like, you know, constantly collecting the information that you need to collect, that's going to take time, and that's going to take time to build healthy, good habits. So I need you to just constantly try to be mindful. If you have to write sticky notes, I have a bunch of sticky notes on my desk. Whatever thing you have to do to remind you, if you have to set like an alarm on your phone, like whatever you have to do, do it. Just make sure that you're constantly building the habits of looking at your lanes and looking at your waves and collecting the information that you need and utilizing it properly, and like the making sure that you're planning out ganks, making sure that, and all of that is based off of good camera control. The next is, I want you to be thinking a lot more. I want you to weight top lane matchups, volatile top lane matchups, a lot more than bot lane matchups, because bot lane matchups, like, first of all, unless it's like a very clear, very clear cut win condition, uh most of the time a top lane matchup gets like sent to Narnia way faster than a bot lane matchup. Unless, again, there are very notable exceptions, and there are going to be exceptions that you're like, I don't even need to name them, right? I mean, when you think of a bot lane that snowballs beyond proportion, like, you can probably name four or five, right?
Right.
Right. So there's no like there's no real point in like explaining the specifics of that. But like for top lane though, any melee matchup is just incredibly volatile in terms of how far they have to pass up and how far they have to walk up and how far they have to, overextend for even just CSing in the first place. So I want you to weigh that stuff super heavily. I want you to weigh first Herald like pre 14 minutes super heavily. Um because the gold swing that you can get from that, who the fuck cares about first two dragons? Like seriously, it's like what does it actually do to secure the game? No, that's not a
It does.
rhetorical. That's not rhetorical. That's not rhetorical.
Yeah.
I'm asking you, like what do
So
dragons actually do for you?
so dragons are like your scaling win con because it's
Mhm.
like at fourth dragon you get a buff, but
Mhm.
in terms of gold, it makes so it's like if you can get 3 to 4 turret plates with Herald, it gives your team way more value in terms of stats
Mhm.
on the individual or individuals that the plates go onto.
Right.
Like if I get Herald on spawn and put it on Yone, he gets what? Probably like probably
About
like 400
It
gold.
depends. So on the low end, the absolute minimum that he's gonna get 160. On the high end, if we get the last three plates and a turret, we're getting around 500 gold. We're giving basically Yone a double kill. And on top of that, we can maybe get a crash on the second tier two, but either way, yes, around 500 gold and on the high end, 160 gold on the low end.
Yeah, because dragon in terms of stats like aren't worth a lot if I remember right. Like
You
they're
you
very
do.
like minimal
Mhm.
per player. Like
Mhm.
per dragon, it's like 100 gold or something, especially early. Maybe it's even less.
Mhm. But
But yeah,
yeah.
I know that early Herald in terms of stats and gold means a lot more.
Mhm. Yep, and I mean that's why like stuff like Lee Sin really really likes pathing into top lane. Um, I mean most early game junglers in general. If you look at Koreans and you look at Chinese VODs and stuff, the junglers are constantly pathing up. Like unless it's just an unlosable 2v2, most of the time they're just pathing up. Because fundamentally, like you can just snowball a game so much harder with a top laner than you can with a bot lane. Because bot lane, like you have to think about it in terms of commitment, right? Anytime you're making a play with bot lane, so it's almost like mobilizing an army, right? Kind of like bot lane, right? Because there's so many more members, any play that you're doing is like a vast overcommitment of resources. So it's almost like like wargaming, right? So like the United States military has insane power projection, right? We got like a bunch of aircraft carriers, we got a bunch of massive army. What's the problem with it?
It takes forever to move
It take
and get ready.
it actually it's not actually that it doesn't take forever to move that it's the it's not actually that bad, but the big problem is like how expensive it is to actually mobilize. um
Hmm.
we can we can get up there, we can get active super super quickly, but the problem is staying active requires an insane amount of resources. So think about it in terms of like this, right? If when you're moving with bot lane, it's like sending out an aircraft carrier. When you're sending out a top lane to go for a play, it's almost just like you're just sending like a few tanks, right? One of them is obviously more powerful, right? You're sending out two people, it's that's more powerful than one. But anytime you're committing those two people, that's time that they're not spent farming, they're not looking at lanes, or they're not like, fixing their waves or whatever. So that's why generally when you're making a play through bot lane, it's just with your support. And in terms of support versus top laner, which one you'd rather be like, moving with, invading with, diving with, obviously it's going to be a top laner because just they have more gold, higher levels. The top laners are generally Exodia, like Aurelia, Jax, Camille,
Hmm.
Fiora, uh, Riven, Yone, I don't like whatever, a million of them, right? Gwen. You look at all these champions that are just absolute gods, when they have like 1 to 2 kills, and I'd much rather be playing around them. And it's like in the best case scenario, right? Like with bot lane, if we're invading with two, it's really nice, but like it's a massive massive commitment of resources. Um,
Right.
so it's just something that like most of the time, like an ADC, they just want to be chilling bot lane. Like anytime they leave that, they are hemorrhaging gold. So anytime like And again, it's the same thing. It's like U.S. military, right? It's anytime you're moving with bot lane together, it's an aircraft carrier, right? And you are losing gold. You are losing a fuck ton of money every single time that they have to like leave lane for any prolonged period of time. With top lane though, there's much less of that commitment of resources, and it's just it's a lot. You don't have to commit so many things, right? Which is nice. Um, but yeah, that's something that I would highly suggest that you think about in the future is just making sure that
Okay.
you have like you're really controlling that top lane, um, outside of like you know some exceptions. But pathing down is it's I'm not gonna say it's a thing of the past, but like really with how broken heralds like and turret plates are, it's kind of pointless to path to unless you like unless it's just a clear win condition, it's kind of pointless to path down anymore. If you're playing champions that aren't like, super strong early game and they don't have that agency to force those decisions, like I don't think you play any of them. But I guess Hecarim can count because his early game isn't strong enough that he has the agency to make those decisions. So pathing into whatever strong lane is generally the play, like whoever lane can like win 2v2 3v3. So he doesn't have the agency to make the decisions that a Lee Sin can with regards to where you want to go rather than where you need to go. So like Kha'Zix,
Okay.
he has to path towards where he needs to go, right? He doesn't really have the opportunity to path where he wants to go because early game, Kha'Zix kind of just doesn't do anything at all, right? Lee Sin though, his 2v2 3v3 skirmish is he just gets to do whatever the fuck he wants, wherever the fuck he wants, and it's just very nice. Also something that I want you to like we didn't really know where Viego was when you go for this. He could have just been chilling in that way in that bush, smites it and just walks away. So just something
Yeah.
that like making sure that you're not just, like you can save like you can wind up spending like a few other seconds just to make sure that he just can't smite it away from you in case he's there, especially when we think that he's there in the first place. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the another thing. I want you to make sure that you're constantly spamming enemy jungle location, even if it's not exactly where it is. Just making sure that you have a good like just giving like a little bit of information. Um, yeah, this is fine as long as did you when you were taking this, did you have a plan like I want to recall for with Iron Spike Whip and then a control word, or were you just like I want to take whatever camps are close to me?
Well, I wanted to take this and then reset into the top side. So I saw that I had enough for whip when I started this, but I figured for sequencing it was better to take wolves.
Hmm. I mean, yeah,
But
that's
I didn't. I don't think I thought about it in terms of the money. And then we saw Viego on mid, so I'm like, he's probably gonna clear into bot. I want to reset into top, see if I can do anything there,
hmm
and potentially look for an invade. So that was like my process in the next 10 seconds, like from resetting and buying.
So how much of that plan was made like right now? How much of that plan was made like in advance?
Probably not very much. I
Right.
think the soonest I set it up was just on my wolves,
Right,
so
right,
I'm
right, right.
probably slow to the play.
Right. So that's something that like when even if you're the best jungler on the planet, right? If you're not thinking like multiple steps, like you could be the best chess player on the planet, right? You could be Magnus Carlsen or whatever whoever is the fucking best chess player on the planet right now. If you aren't thinking ahead, if you're only thinking one move ahead, there is no possible way that you can ever like compete with somebody, even if they're a much worse player than you, right? Even if they can't think about all the possibilities, if they're thinking ahead and they have more like they have more options to choose from, they will always have an advantage over you. So making sure that you can break that and just you can start thinking in terms of like, planning 1, 2, 3 minutes ahead, just getting a general game plan. You don't need to stick to it, right? Because you don't need to like you don't need to be like completely set yourself in stone, but give yourself options, right? Make things easy on your brain because it's fucking working hard, So make things easier on it. Give it a little bit of time. Give it some choices so it isn't forced to like, make a conclusion based off of like, you know, not much data, right? Whereas if we're just thinking about it, we're giving it some choices, right? So like we know we're like, okay, well, how like we're thinking like in terms of like this, all right? How much gold do I have? right? How much gold do I need? Can I reset right now? Could I just get a pickaxe and a control word right now? Right? Where do I want to go? Right? Think about it in terms of like, all right, where do I want to be? Where am I needed right now? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And think about it like in terms of like, okay, well, do I have the ability to just clear this? If like, let's just say my goal is to go top lane, right? Do I have the time to just clear this and, then reset into top lane? The answer there, I think, is probably no, because you want to be thinking in terms of like resets, right? And recall timings.
Mm-hmm.
If you, so like, let's just say, right, we just finished this, right? First thing I'm thinking, I want to look top wave. I want to see, okay, if he's resetting, he's crashing, then I want to time my recall with Yone so that I can just then what? What so I want you to auto complete it. If you can reset in time with Yone, what does that give you the opportunity to do?
So then you're both on the same timer for a reset. So one, you're both strong and have item advantage. So
Right?
then you can either make it play top,
Mm-hmm.
or Yon can literally go back to his wave, shove it, and then you can invade off of his prio because with item
Mm-hmm.
advantage, like he can
That's
do
something
whatever he
you can
wants
do.
with the
That's
wave.
that's one thing you can do. What's another thing that you can do? Think about it in the terms of the current wave position and the current wave state and what we just learned about how bounces work.
So since it bounced, the Nasus should be vulnerable, right? So I can
Right.
look for top gank, and if the
Mm-hmm.
gank's not good, I can clear a few camps and then look for dive if
Mm-hmm.
Yon sets up the wave, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
those are like the two big things.
Right. And like the thinking about it in terms of like abstract of like, well, what, like, if the wave's not good, we can go, we want to think about how the wave currently is right now. We want to plan ahead, right? Give ourselves some opportunities. But when I'm talking about that, I want to be looking at the wave right now because that's going to give us something, like that's going to get a guaranteed play. No matter what Yon does, as long as he crashes here, Nasus will, if you can see my what's gonna happen to Nasus is going to wind up walking because the wave's going to crash. It's going to bounce back. Nasus will be here. When Yone comes back to
Mm-hmm.
lane, Nasus will be here. As long as you're timing your reset with Yone, you can make sure that you are there and that guy dies. And that's all making sure that all of your resets are timed and that making sure that you're in tune with your laners. Because really, does it matter too much that you can get Iron Spike Whip versus a pickaxe when you're getting a control ward either way? Does it really matter?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't.
No, probably not.
It really doesn't, right? So it's much now. If you have the agency, or if you're or not so much agency, but if you have the ability to go for that, greedier recall, absolutely go for it, right? But if it comes down to like whether or not we lose out on our tempo from like you know from not being able to get to that top play, like we really whatever lane that we want to path into, we want to make sure that our recalls are constantly timed with them, constantly timed with them and in tune with them. Otherwise, life is kind of hard. Um, because what's going to wind up happening? Actually, can you tell me what's going to wind up happening if our recalls aren't like synced?
So when your recalls aren't synced, you give the enemy jungler an opportunity to punish your laners. Is
Uh,
like the first thing I can think
right.
of.
No,
But
that's true. No, that's true. Absolutely, you're absolutely correct.
um, I know, cause like I guess I have a friend that I bounce off ideas, and he
Mhm.
likes to think of the jungle in terms of like flow,
Mhm.
right? Like so, and one of the big things, cause I play on like the JV team for my
Mhm.
university anyway, like something that's like good and helps me like think about play, but it's not like obviously super high level.
Mhm.
Um, but
Don't sweat it, brother.
this
Even if
idea
you're
with
thinking about it,
flow,
it's good. Even if you're thinking about it, it's good. Continue.
but but it's like this flow, like you want to have the most impact possible, but you
Mhm.
don't want to throw yourself into the enemy team like when they have tempo, right? So you're
Mhm.
like trying to find this balance of
It's
using your
I'm not
tempo
I'm
like
not gonna lie. It's actually not that. It's a lot simpler than I think you're overcomplicating this for yourself a little bit. It's not. You don't have to think
okay.
about it in terms of tempo. You don't have to think about it there. Strictly speaking, if you guys are not synced, what's going on right now? Just think about in the here and now. If you guys aren't synced, right? So if you actually let's this is a good example, right? Look at your bot lane's resetting, your Yone's resetting. If you're late, right? You one of the things like you just mentioned, but there's another thing. There's another real big thing.
So it has to do with like something that's like disadvantageous for your laners, right? So do they
Something.
lose pressure because I'm not on the map?
It's that, and
Or
when you're not, so it this applies to bot lane just as well, right? When you're, it's not just like, the enemy jungle can punish, but when you guys aren't synced, when one person's on the map and one person's off the map, it's almost like you're dead because you don't exist anymore. You don't exist until you are back on the map, which means until that happens, yes, the jungler can go for that. But in general, they have to play like complete bitches. They can't go for plays. They can't really walk up because their jungler doesn't exist anymore. Their jungler doesn't exist, but that exists for bot lane as well, right? That's why bot laners constantly want to make sure that their recalls are synced. Because if Kai'Sa shows up, right, and Italy's not there, because or like let's just say Nidalee shows up, right? Nidalee resets super early. Kai'Sa's like chilling, trying to fucking bash in the wave. Nidalee just is like, "Fuck you, I don't care about you," and just like fucking dips, right? Now what happens for bot lane?
the AD's just screwed because they're gonna get 2v1 all game,
Right,
right?
and because now now their recalls aren't synced. Now the position the entire a huge part of bot lane is finding those windows where where you think you're 2v2 but you're actually 1v2 because of enemy bot lane missteps. But I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with like right now, but it's just it's the same thing, right? When you are finding those windows where it is now a 1v2, life is so much easier, right? But if their recalls aren't timed, right? If their recalls aren't synced and Kai'Sa is there at a different spot, now Kai'Sa just has to chill, right? Kai'Sa just can't walk up, can't CS, has to just play in Narnia, can't really do anything. It's the same way with lanes. The exact same way with lanes. When the jungler is either not pathing into them, or the jungler is not like, currently on the map, you have to play very, very safe. Do you think that the players in your game are going to play very, very safe?
Hell no.
Hell no. Hell no. These guys fucking suck. It's solo queue in general. Everybody fucking sucks. From here to fucking Grandmaster, from here to Challenger, all the players suck. Not in terms of mechanical skill or brain power, because a lot of them are pretty good players. But in terms of just making mistakes, nobody here is perfect. Nobody here on this entire server is perfect. We have like Corey JJ. That's it. That's it. We have Corey JJ. That's it. Nobody else can really I can say confidently, just no matter what, I have like unironically never seen them make a mistake. In all of my games playing with them, I have seen everybody and their mother make mistakes. Corey JJ doesn't make mistakes. It's crazy. But um let's anyways, you're seeing what I mean right now by like making sure that you're on like your all of your recalls are synced, because now you're creating a
Hmm.
situation, even if the jungler doesn't gank them, right? It's pressure. It's like you said, it's pressure and it's time, and like, so think about it like this, right? You play competitively. How many times has your coach said, "Guys, make sure you're all recalling together. Make sure you're all recalling
A
together."
lot.
Right. If
Yeah.
your coach saw that, like, your bot lane's reset, your top lane's reset, and you're the only person not reset, what do you think he would say?
He'd probably be like, "What the fuck are you doing here?"
Yeah,
It's
like
like base.
it's the same shit in solo queue to a certain extent. It's just something that you want to be thinking about, is like, how do I make sure that I'm on map with everybody else at the same time? And if you think that they're going for a reset, even if you have to take like a not as great back, you can take greedy backs, but not on champions like Lee said. Because does it really matter?
No, because
If
your damage profile is really high early.
Right, if we're playing like Karthus, does it matter?
Yeah, I would think
Absolutely.
so.
Right. Because we first of all, item breakpoints are much more important, right? And on top of that, the gold the what we represent to the team, we are not like we are we are the team, right? We are the damage, right? Lee Sin and we are like the mid to late game like insurance, right? We are that insurance policy. Lee Sin is like he's the opposite. He doesn't give a shit. He has really nice damage early game, like you said. He doesn't really need the item spikes and he doesn't really need the components because he has so much stuff in his kit already. It doesn't really matter. It's much more important to make sure that you're actually there than it is to make sure that you're super as strong as possible for the situation in question. Anywho,
Okay.
um, I'm just gonna quickly go over. I mean, the already went over a fuck ton of stuff in terms of just like what I want you to focus on. Um, so let's see how you wind up playing this. I mean, just literally like just send you can just send it. Like it's like there's. I'm glad that you realized that. It was a little bit sloppy, but yeah, I mean, you can just send this shit. Just yep. Just gonna watch again just to make sure that you're. Uh, yeah, I mean that's fine. So what do you want to be think like? What are you thinking about right now? What are you thinking about?
So I should be thinking about. I think what I didn't think about in hindsight was Lissandra can TP here, but I wanted to look to deny Caitlyn this wave,
I mean, you don't need to
so
think
I
about
dove
that.
her
You
here.
don't need to really think about that. You need to be thinking about what you really like. You asked for going for dives, but the biggest thing that you want to be thinking about is how are the waves? Because even if she can TP on us, right? If the wave is good, she has to do that super far in advance. You know what I mean? So like
Hmm.
we want to be thinking about the waves. Just like every other part of League of Legends, it's all dependent on the wave, right? Because if we wait for the wave here, right? Are we in any position to actually get TP'd on?
Probably not.
No, because there's no overcommitment, right? There's no overcommitment. If the
Yeah.
wave is like that, then no matter what, we're in a good spot. Because either A, she TP's late and we just get in, get out, right? Or B, she TP's early and we just walk away, right? And all of that is
Right.
making sure that it's like the wave state is proper and the wave state is good for the dive. When we go for the when you're looking at this right now, right? Is the wave state good?
No.
No, because we
It will be.
it will be in like 5 seconds, literally like five
Mhm.
seconds, and that's a completely different play because now we can redistribute aggro. So now like we don't have to be the ones that are just tanking everything, right? Because if we wait for the wave, right, now somebody like maybe Nidalee can go for a spear, or maybe Kaisa can hit a W tank for a little bit, and now we are like the lowest HP person with like the least ability to get out. I mean, Lee Sin has some nice ability to get out safely, but a ranged champion just tanks, sits at enemy at turret, and just walks out, right? And that is a
Right.
much more enviable position to be in than like now you're just tanking two turret shots and like this is not an ideal situation, right? Um,
Right.
and that's all based off of wave states. Um, and just making sure that it's in that position because when we wind up just forcing there, now she just has to pull the trigger, right? Like she
Hmm.
sees it. There's just okay, yep. It's like there's no unless like she gets the perfect timing, it's just not going to really make too much of a difference. Yeah, I mean this guy is just kind of just dead. Hopefully
Yeah.
Fizz doesn't touch that wave because that is really good for Yon. Yon's going mid. Damn. Okay. Uh, yeah. I mean, yeah, we can do this. Um,
Or is this a bad look because of Lissandra?
it's just rough because like when I'm just thinking like I have zero prio mid. Like I like this, right? I like that we're going for the invade. What I don't like is the timing of it. Because first off, right, what do you think? So there's two things that I want you to be thinking about, right? So the first what are the two things that you need to be focused on right now?
So where their jungle can be and who has prio like in mid because they have first rotation, right?
Where the jungler is doesn't matter. The where the jungler is doesn't matter if the invade's good. What makes the invade good though?
The invade's good when your lanes have prio and can collapse first.
Hmm. Because we don't remember what actually matters. And does the 1v1 mechanical outplay matter in jungle?
Most of the time, no.
No, the vast majority of the time, no. Right? What actually matters?
It matters who brings the most friends to the party.
Yep, who brings the most friends to the party? And are my friends cooler than yours? And all of our friends are just not there. We are the only people at this party, right? Like on we want to be thinking about first things first, right? What are the wave states even good for this, right? Like we want to be looking at Fizz, right? We aren't looking at the wave state. We aren't looking at Yone, right? Maybe the wave is even for Yone. Maybe Yone can actually rotate. We have no idea until we check, right? Nasus died. Do we know his TP?
No, I don't think I did at this point.
Right. I mean, that's not like super huge, right? But I mean, it's something that you want to think about, especially considering we're not 6 yet. So like it's just it's I don't hate this. I think it's a little bit flippy, but I think that in general though, like especially with the fact that she showed and stuff like that, the problem that I have with this is the overcommitment for the blue because I could already tell that you were just going to fucking send it here, right? But look at the so what is the issue here, right? Like look at
Eon's
Yon is like coming to help us, but like he's fucking himself over for it. Like this is let's be real here, right? This is not great for Yon.
no.
Like
He's losing like a whole wave mid, and I think it's a cannon wave too.
yep, like he's losing a lot for it, and like he gets what 2 assists? You know, if let's just say right, Lissandra had a quarter of her functioning brain and just crashes that wave, right? And then right, like she maybe goes for a play bot lane because she notices guys they're like 3v2ing us in our topside jungle, so like let's just go this now they get the opportunity to like go for a play, right? Whereas if we just wait a little bit longer for Yon to be able to crash, now there's no real opportunity. There's no like counterplay, right? Because when I'm thinking like,
Mhm.
okay, Yone's coming to help us because he's a homie, right? He's like he's one of those good friends. He shouldn't be at the party, maybe he has like fucking diabetes and there's too much cake at the party, who knows? But like he doesn't want to be here, right? But he's still there because he's trying to help us out, right? If Lissandra crashes this wave and goes bot, represents an opportunity that they can use to get back in the game. You have 3 winning lanes right now, so it doesn't actually really matter too much. Um, but this still represents an opportunity that Lissandra could potentially use to gank bot lane, to dive bot lane, or something like that. And it's like if you make sure that the wave is crashed before you go for this play, she doesn't have that agency to go for those opportunities anymore. But fortunately, we mind
Gotcha.
controlled Lissandra into like thinking that this was, I don't know, doable or something. I don't know, but like she doesn't just crash the wave. But like you're seeing what I'm thinking, right? You're seeing like what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
right?
I understand the thought process.
Yeah, I don't hate going for the Gromp. The Gromp isn't the problem here because we have flash up, we have ward up, we can walk out like this. We don't we have enough mobility that it's fine. The real issue though is the overcommitment for this because now like Fizz is missing out on play. Like Fizz wants to be smacking this turret for plates, right? Yone wants to be crashing this wave. Like we get 2 kills, that's nice, right? Especially because we just get Herald as well. But like realistically here, right? Does Viego need to contest this?
No, he should just
Does
walk away.
does Nasus need to contest this?
No.
Not really, right? So all that really winds up happening, if they just walk away, we get a blue buff and we lose mid wave and then turret plates, right?
Yeah, so we lose the potential for like 500 gold for
Mhm.
100 gold because I'm
Mhm.
playing greedily.
Yep, and going
Makes
for
sense.
those greedy plays, like I find myself in that same position, right? So let's not pretend like that like that's the that I don't, or like that people don't even get like really good junglers, they'll go for really greedy plays. It's just making sure, because I'm saying this like if you were only planning on playing solo queue, I would be like, okay, well, I mean, it doesn't fucking matter. Do whatever benefits you and fuck everybody else, right? But like, you're attempting to play some competitive, and having a mindset of like, how does this impact my laners is something you really need to be thinking about. Like, if I go for this, right? Okay, how much does it benefit me? But how much does it fuck over my laners? Because really here, your laners are like what actually are going to matter. right? Because when you're playing Lee Sin, right, in competitive, you're not really picking him because like, you know, you want to like solo carry 1v9 a game, right?
Right.
You're picking it for your teammates, right? So that you guys have, you know, winning 2v2, winning 3v3 makes life easier for you guys, right? I mean, you can just drop this and dive. Because he has no TP, he has no ult. Like you can just drop this. You drop this early and just run straight at him. Yeah, just something that like, you know, obviously it doesn't matter there. It's just building good habits. Just wait, like 2 seconds,
Hmm.
just wait, you know. So that way like, you know,